Hi, my name is Kyle Benak. I'm currently a full-time Android bug wrangler for Google, and today I will be presenting my Android mobile hacking workshop. I'm super excited to show you my CTF-based exercises that display various concepts. Let's get started. First, I wanted to go over the application that I'll be using in this training, which is called InjuredAndroid. I created this in my spare time in order to learn various Android vulnerability concepts, and I thought it would be a fun idea to translate the vulnerability concepts from reports into CTF exercises. So some of these examples are based off of bug bounty reports. Others are based off of exploitation concepts and pure creativity. Currently, there's 16 exercises that demonstrate specific concepts. I may have enough time to go over 3 prototype exercises that I've been working on. All these exercises are designed to scale in difficulty and combine or build upon initial exercises. So basically, I wanted to start off with training wheels, kind of like when you first start riding a bike, you have the training wheels on. If you practice riding a bike without training wheels, I'm sorry. Um, and then it's all for the low price of free. So you can download it from Google Play or GitHub. I tested this application on physical devices and emulators, and now we'll move on to the tools that you can use to solve the exercises and that are applicable to production apps as well. So my testing environment involves a lot of JADX usage. JADX is a Dex to Java decompiler, and that's the latest release, version 1.1.0. I use Bash a lot. You can set up all these tools for Windows. I have it all set up on Ubuntu, but I know for a fact you can set it up on Windows. You just gotta believe. ADB or Android Debug Bridge is an essential tool for pulling the APK off of your device onto your desktop so you can analyze it. The only prereqs for AADB is having a USB cable. You'll need to connect the USB cable to your phone and your computer. Um, and yeah, unless you use a emulator, you can actually download the application from GitHub and then drag and drop it onto the emulator instead. Next is Frida. Frida is an awesome dynamic instrumentation toolkit that you can hook various methods at runtime or bypass SSL pinning. Like I'll show you later, the prereqs for that is having pip installed on Linux. You can also set up pip on Windows and add it to your Windows environments or your environment variables. Burp Suite has its own installation binary, so there's not like it's not too difficult to set up. DB Browser for SQLite is an awesome tool to use if you find an SQLite database that's in a public directory. You can see if like sensitive credentials are stored there and stuff. AWS CLI is another tool that applies to one of the exercises, and that's based off of an actual bug bounty finding. I'll go over that more later. Ghidra is just a disassembler where you can use it to reverse engineer a shared object file, which I'll show you um, with one of the flags as well. So let's get started with flag 1, intro to source code review. Tools I'm going to be using in this exercise is JADX for the most part, and I'll show you that you can search strings recursively via the GUI, save decompiled projects for later use. The CLI option allows you to easily decompile an application and then run like grep against that entire folder. Sometimes it's easier to do that, and if you have some automation set up, it makes JADX that much better of a tool. Steps to complete will be what we're going to do is review the source code of the first flag, find the flag, and then submit it, and I'll show you exactly how all that works. What we're going to do is first we're going to get the latest release of JAX, and we can use wget for this to download via command line so we don't have to go through the browser. It's very important to get the zip file because this is going to have the binary in it. The one that's a tar file does not. It's a source code. If you rather build from source, that's fine too. Once it's done downloading, we can look here and look in the directory and unzip it. So if you do unzip, it'll unzip the archive, and then we can cd into the folder, which is bin. So bin's gonna have your executables that you can use to run JADX. So JADX by itself is the one that decompiles the application without the graphic user interface, and JADX GUI is the binary that we're gonna use for the most part. And this has a graphic user interface, makes it super easy to quickly look at various files. So I'll start JADX GUI to show you what exactly happens, and then from here you can open files, and there's various like text search, class search tools for deobfuscation. So now that we went over the how to get JADX, let's pull the APK off of the emulator, because right now I have it running on an emulator. So we can use ADB, PM path, the name of the application. Yeah, so now that we have the path, you can use ADB pull. So ADB pull this path, and then once it's downloaded, what I usually do is rename it. So I'll rename base.apk to the application name, and this is like where you want to automate the process, because this gets very redundant. What we can do now is use JADX GUI to open this file specifically, and then we don't have to worry about like opening the file from the graphic user interface itself. So you can see like it successfully opened the application, and from here we can quickly look at Android manifest.xml. This is one of the places you would want to look first on any application because it's a blueprint. It's basically a blueprint for the entire application. Now that we have the source code open, we would also want to have InjuredAndroid running on either your physical device or the emulator. So I have it running on an emulator right here, and in flag 1, if you click on flag 1, you'll see there's a place to enter the flag, and then there's a exclamation point down on the bottom right. If you click on that exclamation point, it'll give you hints. So one of the hints is the flag is under your nose. It's also under the GUI. Now that will cue us in to look at the source code for that flag. So if we look for flag 1, we should be able to see. Okay, so now we can see like this is flag 1 based on the string for the title. So now we have a common naming convention to enumerate where the Android names are located. And Android name is the activity name for that specific activity. So B3NAC InjuredAndroid flag1 login activity. And now we'd want to copy this activity name, and specifically this part, because this is the class. Now, if you click on this wand, it'll start decompiling the application. And once it's done decompiling, we can recursively search the entire app. So this won't take, usually it doesn't take a super long time. And you can actually change, you can see the JADX memory usage down here at the bottom. You can actually change this to have more memory usage, but this isn't taking up very much. As you can see, it's around like 0.7 and it's fluctuating. Okay, so it's already done. So if you paste flag1 activity in the search for text, you can go to the activity itself. You can also, check class method field for more options. Now, if we open the flag1 activity, we can see right away that this is coded in Kotlin. Nothing too crazy up here. We can see there's an onCreate method, then there's a submit flag method, which looks interesting. And right here, the flag is in plain text. So this is what we'll want to enter. And how we know this is the actual flag is because it's checking if that string is in the submission box, and then if it is, then the boolean for the flag completion is set to true. Another dead giveaway that this is Kotlin is the intrinsics. That's just something you'll always see. So now if we go back to the application, paste the flag, and submit, it should go to the congrats you found the flag. Now if we go back to the main page and we go to all the way to the bottom, there's a flags overview. You can check to make sure that the flags you have completed are green. That means that you have successfully solved them. I'm going to go ahead and clear the flags. So you can also clear the flags and it'll switch back to the unsolved state. Next is flag 2. This flag was designed as an introduction to exported activities. The tools we'll use are bash and ADB, and the steps to complete this flag are reviewing the source code of Android manifest.xml and looking for exported activities, then invoking the export activity for flag 2 with ADB. Now let's go back to JADX. Now, once we're back in JADX, viewing the Android manifest.xml file, we can see all the export activities by typing in export equals true. And right away, we see that this activity is exported and it's not super obvious what it does. So if we copy the activity name and search for it with the wand, open it by double clicking, we can see the source code for this activity. And if we look at the onCreate lifecycle method, we can see that the flag 2 button color will be marked as completed if it's open. And the only way that this activity is open is by invoking it. So another useful tip is that every time an activity is open, onCreate is called. Now, if we go back to the terminal, and let's open up the emulator as well so we can see what happens when we use this ADB command. So to open this specific activity, we would use ADB shell and start the name of the application and then the class name. So that will open up the exported activity. And the only reason we were able to do this is because it's marked as exported in the Android manifest. And let's check, and it was marked complete. Now moving on to flag 3, tracing string references. The tool we'll mainly use is JADX. A few tips about this specific concept is that developers are encouraged to store strings as references in strings.xml, and any reference with r.string traces back to strings.xml. So more often than not, you might see string references, and then if you go to strings.xml, you'll see the plain text value for those string references. So the steps to complete this exercise are reviewing the source code of flag 3 activity and looking up the string reference. Now I'll show you exactly how we will look up this value for flag 3. And we'll go through the same process of searching for the activity recursively, double clicking on the actual class name, and it will open in another window. Now we have to find the string reference. So if we look at the submit flag, you can see right here with the get string r.string, this is the reference. So we can copy that reference, and strings.xml is in res. It's actually in resources.arsc res values strings.xml. Now if we go to this file and we look for that specific reference, it'll highlight the value for that reference, and which is the flag. This is just one of the methods or techniques I've used a multitude of times to trace values and potentially sensitive API keys. So that is why this turned into a exercise. So now if we paste the value, congrats, we found the flag. So flag 4, imported and encoded values. I'll be using JADX a lot, and this activity, the steps to complete are finding where exactly the Bob variable is imported and reviewing the decoder class. And then we'll need a base64 to decode the Bob variable. So if we open up JADX, go to Android manifest, let's look for flag 4. Now we can search recursively for the activity.